Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Girish. I work as program coordinator with IAM Indo's postgraduate certification program in product management, which we offer in association with UNext. I'm delighted to no to be a moderator for today's webinar. With great pleasure, I would like to welcome our speaker, Mr. Shubham Maheshwari, as an expert in the field of product management with more than a decade of experience. So Mr. Shubham holds a bachelor degree from IIT Dhanbad and also a master degree from IIM Bangalore. So Shubham excels at designing and implementing innovative products that basically are tailored to meet the unique needs and preferences of end users. So today during the webinar, he will be sharing his insights, his experiences, and the best practices for managing on like how to build better products. So over to you, Shubham.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Girish, for that introduction. Hey, everyone, guys. Good evening. I'll do the session in a way where I think it has to be engaging for me as well as for you guys. So maybe a few of you can just simply write down in chat, what are you expecting from the session? What are some of the questions on top of your mind? Maybe quickly a minute we can take for that. And can you guys please mention that so that the session becomes useful for you guys? I can try to tune it to those questions. I would really request you guys to use the chat to drop in a few comments there. Okay, how you think? Could you elaborate a bit more, please, Deepak? All things product and its understanding how to develop its marketing styles. Okay. What else, guys? How fast can we go in this field? Okay. Career scope as a beginner. Okay. What and how does a product manager adds value to the user's team he works within an organization? Okay. About business and strategy. Execution, is it easy to switch after 10 years in sales? Is user research a part of PM? Okay. What are the basic things a product manager needs to have to join in this role? Can a person from a non-tech background get into the product management role? How Flipkart manages its product? Okay. How much it overlaps with the role of a business analyst? In short, how to market a product? Why the few products fails to perform even if introduced by great giant? The basic failure causes. Okay. I think fair. I got a bit of a hint. I have a particular deck that I have, prepared to take you through the topic. I'll try to cover a few of these questions as I speak, and I take you guys through those. I believe I'll be able to cover that. In case you guys think that I'm not able to cover any of these questions, please feel free to use the chat. We'll keep it as engaging as possible, and you guys please use the chat as much as you can to get the questions answered. With that, I'll quickly share the screen. Give me just a second. 1 second, guys. I'm assuming you guys are able to see my screen. Can a few of you confirm, please?
Yeah, Shubham.
Okay, great. Okay, so basically, I'll try to tell you what product management is, and how does consumer behavior play a role there, or how does the problem that you're trying to solve? How do you try to understand this problem from the lens of a consumer? And basically, that is where the product management journey starts. So that is what I'm trying to cover today. For a few of you, if you could answer, what do you think is the role of a product manager? Whatever comes to your mind or whatever your understanding is. I'm assuming you all are coming here for the webinar, so you would have some understanding of product manager in your minds. What do you think a product manager does? Manage life cycle of product, okay. Make products better at every touch points, life cycle, team management. Markets the product according to the need of the consumer. Okay. Collaboration of different departments, product manager who understands customers' needs, build features to make products running, understand product pain points, manages the product life cycle and sales. Got it. Fair. So I think you guys have covered a bit of it here and there in different flavors. So if I were to, present it in a way which summarizes it all, so this is what a product manager's job typically is. You start with a consumer problem. You try to first figure out what is it that you're trying to solve. You need to work on a problem where you see that there is a consumer or there is a set of consumers who are facing a particular problem. They're somehow dealing with it in a day-to-day life. You can take any example, take Uber, take Flipkart, anything. There is a particular way in which people deal with the problem today, but that could be suboptimal. So you figure out that what are those problems, or we can say them as opportunities. What is it that I can get into through a solution which can cater to a particular problem, which my consumer segment, or as we call it, target audience or target group. You will listen to the term, or you will hear the term TG quite a lot. TG is most important because the solution or the problem that you choose, the problem that you're choosing is for a particular TG. The solution has to cater to that particular TG. You can't be building a solve for everyone. So you start from there, then you figure out, okay, this is the problem. Now, let me take an example. There is a problem of commuting. You go from place A to place B. There are a lot of people who are facing that problem, and they have their own ways of figuring out, they have already figured out how to, go from place A to place B, either through public transport, either through their own vehicles, either by walking or whatever. Second, you try to understand is that while this is a valid problem, how big of a problem is this? The TG that I'm going to cater to and the opportunity that I have, is it a big problem or I'm going after a very, very small problem? Because you generally would like to go after a problem or an opportunity that you see or you feel is big enough. So a lot of study about the market or the consumer behavior, what they are doing today to basically solve this problem gives you good amount of, peek into how big the problem is. Once you are convinced that this is a big problem to begin with, and big problem, when I say, it could be in terms of the opportunity of how many consumers are getting impacted by this problem, or what is a kind of, maybe there are a limited number of people who are getting impacted by this problem. But these people, the problem that is there at hand, this is quite a big problem for them, and they will be able to, generate decent amount of money for this particular problem statement. They will pay up for this problem statement because it is really big problem. Maybe you're looking for 1% premium consumer of the country in India. While that 1% is very, very limited, but because they have the maximum, spending capability, if the problem is big enough for them, you will be able to expect out, some kind of revenue from them. So you look at those lenses. How many people, how much can you generate from that particular pool, even if the PG is small, maybe they have the paying capability. So that is where you start your first part, understanding the problem quite well. In fact, a lot of product management starts off with understanding the problem quite well. In fact, when we get junior PMs, a lot of questioning for them goes around how well have they understood the problem? Do they understand the problem well? Do they feel convinced about the problem? Have they done a good market understanding about the problem? Because if the problem is well understood, I think the solutions will automatically come out. Second part of that automatically happens is you try to innovate. You try to figure out what is the right solve, given that now I have figured out that this is the problem that I'm going after. Now, what is it that my solution should be? It could be a solution which comes from you. It could be a solution which could come from, sorry, someone trying to say something? Sorry, I see Grish, you unmuted. Were you trying to say something?
I think we lost you just a while ago in terms of your voice.
Oh, you did, is it? Am I back now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's better.
So, okay. So I'll try to do a quick recap. So what I was telling was that understanding the problem is very, very important. Understanding the opportunity is very, very important. I'm assuming you guys understood what problem and opportunity means here. You guys can use the chat to tell me if there are any questions around that. But once you have understood that, then you try to figure out the next step that, okay, this problem is what I'm going after because it is a big enough problem. How do I now solve this problem? That is where the entire innovation piece comes out. It could be a very simple solve. It could be a very involved solve. It could be an idea from you. It could be an idea from people you're working with. It could be an idea from the consumer itself. So I think that is where a lot of product management work again goes into. You figure out, okay, this is the problem. these are the 5 different solutions that I could approach this problem. One solution could be very ops heavy. One solution could be very engineering heavy. One solution could be heavy on some other aspect. Then you try to figure out which solution will I try to go ahead with for testing quickly whether this solution works or this solution doesn't work, or whether the problem that I have identified is right or not. In fact, I remember one of you asked that why do a lot of these solves then fail, by big companies as well. See, all of these are all the problems that we pick up. While a thorough opportunity sizing happens, a lot of time what happens, maybe the solution that we have come up with, or maybe the problem that we identified wasn't identified correctly. It was a problem somewhere else. We attacked somewhere else. The solution that we came up with was not right because we did not go deep into the solution aspect. We did not understand whether the consumer will actually latch onto the solution or not. We did not do all of that thorough research. And then we went ahead with the solution. And then later on, we realized after launching that we are not able to find the product market fit. There's a term called product market fit. You can read about it on Google as well. It basically means whether the product that you have built is a fit for the market that you're going after. Market basically means a TG. So that is where the problem about the solution not working comes out. Moving on to the piece, assuming you have done all of that research, now you understand this is the problem. Now you understand this is the solution that I'm going after, and you have picked out of those 5 solutions maybe that you have listed out. You try to figure out which solution will work the best, and you try to do a ROI sort of, return on investment sort of a thing. Each of the solution will take some investment, either in terms of ops costs or engineering costs or effort, and it will give you some kind of impact or return in terms of the opportunity that you identified. You try to figure out which is the solution which can help me test the product faster. And that is what you try to freeze on. That, okay, I will go ahead with the solution for the problem that I have identified after discussing with your engineering counterparts, with your design counterparts, because each one of them have a role to play there. So that is where I think the collaboration bit starts. You work with your developers. You are the one who understand the market well, the consumer well, the problem of the consumer well. You work with everyone to figure out different solutions. And then you collaborate with everyone that, okay, these are the different solutions. Depending on how much is the ROI for each of the solution, you then figure out this is the solution I'm going ahead with. Then you further work with your developer, with your designer, who will come up with the designs along with you. Your developer who will actually build the final solve. Your analyst counterpart. Someone asked a question around BA. Business analyst plays a role because you involve the person in figuring out that, okay, whatever I'm building, these are the objectives for which I am trying to build a solution. For example, my objective is that if people have to go from one place to another place, which is a problem, my objective is that my solution should be able to help them to reach from point A to point B. And hence, the success would be how many people come and adopt my solution, how many of them repeat, how many of them pay me for it. It could be anything, whatever. Different products will have different success criteria. Your analyst will then help you to figure out what all and how the data that you have to track will be tracked to basically understand whether the product that you have launched is working or not. So there is that. So you have a developer, you have a designer, a team of developers, team of designers, team of analysts, team of researchers. Or you, and at times, these roles interchange also, but at times you yourself do a lot of research by talking to consumers, by talking to users. After you have built a rough prototype with your designer, once the solution is closed, you try to go to users and try to show them this, prototype. That this is what we are thinking of building given the problem at hand. Can you tell us how are you thinking this works or how will you use it? And then you try to look at the feedback that the consumer is giving, or maybe you try to read how the consumer is trying to interact with the product. Then you try to take the feedback and then you try to figure out, okay, whether the design or the product that you have built, is it working or does it need any changes? That is all about collaboration, collaborative bit. Then you eventually launch the MVP. We call MVP, or we call it version 0, version 1. MVP is minimum viable product, which as a product manager, you believe is bare minimum to test the waters, to take it live to the audience. And then there are different ways. Obviously, I can't cover everything here, but just to give you a gist, you have launched the product, then you basically analyze how people are using it. You have worked with your analyst to instrument all the metrics. When we say instrument, you have basically ensured that every touch point in your journey is instrumented. Basically, the data is captured so that you can analyze later on. If these many 100 people are coming, the flow is of 10 steps. If you build a 10-step flow, where all are people engaging? Where are they dropping off? Are they going in a sequential manner? Are they dropping off after third one? So you do a lot of analysis. You again go back to the market, you talk to a few users that you use my product. What did work? What did not work? So all of that. And then obviously you are leading all of this because you're tying everything together, right? Because you are trying to stitch all of this together. That is basically what a product manager does in short. And you can read a lot of literature on it, but I've given you a very, very uber level gist. And that is where a product manager adds value to the company. It tries to basically figure out what are the right problems to go after. Once I've identified the problems to go after, what will be my vision for the product or for the solution, which we call as product strategy, which then leads to product roadmap. For example, now I have decided that I will go after the segment of consumers or office commuters who go from point A to point B daily. You have identified that. Now, what will be a product vision? Before you even figure out the solve, what will I focus on? That will then translate to product strategy. What is the strategy to, target that particular audience with the solution? Will you go after a, value solve? Will you go after a premium solve? Will you go after a cab solve? Will you go after a, self-driven car? You figure out what kind of strategy you want to claim. Then from there, you go to product roadmap. What will you solve first? Because you can't build everything from on day one. That is product roadmap. Then you finally go into execution. So all of this is basically an iterative process where you collaborate with your developers, with your designers, with your analysts, with your user researchers. That is basically what a product manager does in short. I'll go ahead because a good part of product manager's job is to understand customer pain points and consumer needs. If I think this part is captured well, you can understand whether the opportunity or the problem that you're going after is good enough or not. If this is where you fail, I think that is where the question which you guys asked, or some of you asked, that why do some products fail? I think one of the biggest reasons for that failure is this part. A lot of us do not understand the consumer need exactly. And then we go after building solutions and then, it falls flat. So on this bit, again, my question to you guys, what do you think are some of the ways to understand consumer needs? How do you understand whatever TG you go after? What are their needs? What are their behaviors? What do you do to figure that out? Again, a few comments in the chat would help. Sampling, okay. Consumer interviews. We go to the market, target, ICP, market, face-to-face. I think a mix of all of that. You guys are right there. There are different approaches. See, big companies have proper teams, user research teams. For example, Flipkart has a user research team who take the problem from product managers. They go after those user cohorts. They first of all recruit the user cohorts. They identify, okay, who's the TG? Who are you trying to solve for? In order to understand the problem in detail, product managers work very, very closely with user research teams. In a lot of small companies, product managers, they themselves do this job. And there is no fancy way to do it. They can themselves go to the market. They know that, okay, my TG is students. They will go to a college. They will talk to them. Or they will go to a bus stop. In the example that I was taking, they will talk to a few users. That, okay, you're taking a bus. How do you, plan? What are the problems that you're facing? Or there's a lot of secondary research that people do. They read a lot of documents. There's a lot of materials, available on internet. And now, thanks to, artificial intelligence with chat GPT, etc., people can ask those questions there as well. So there's secondary research. Then you actually talk to users, and there is no, defined way. It could be a user research agency. It could be you guys, each one of you as a PM, going and doing that, yourself. Or if it is an existing product already, which you're trying to make better, you can do a lot of data analysis. Remember the part where I was saying that when you launch the product, you work with your analyst to get the data points captured. And then you study the data later on. That, okay, these many users came, This is what their journeys they are taking. This is what, they are doing. This is where they are dropping off. So you do all of this study. Then you understand that, okay, what is it the customer problem exactly is? That is the first part. Or for the cases where your product already exists, you start with data. Then you study the market trends. You talk to a few users. So it's an amalgamation of all of this. If this is the part that you're able to understand well, as I'm saying again and again, your problem is solidified. And I think this is 50% of the product management done right. Any questions? I'll take a pause here. Any questions before I move ahead? I talked about product management at a very, very broad level. I talked about how identifying the consumer you are going after, their problems, their needs is very, very important. What all can you do to identify those needs? There are, very, very defined ways. There's a lot of literature around this. And then there are ways which, people do on their own. Talking to people, going there. If you're solving for shopkeepers, for example, because of whatever reason, you have to go to the market, you have to talk to shopkeepers. Those are the best ways to figure out more about consumers. You have to observe them. What is the risk-taking appetite for PMs? Okay, this I'm asking, do you have any questions around the bit that I talked about? We can talk about these generic questions later on. What if the product fails? It could fail, yeah, the product could fail. Then you have to iterate on it. You have to figure out why did the product fail? How do you capture consumer needs? That is what I was talking about, that you do a lot of talking to the consumers. You analyze a lot of data. You read a lot of documents around the market reports. For example, you're trying to get into e-commerce segment. You then try to read a lot of reports which industries or research companies have published, that how is e-commerce adoption happening? Which particular categories are gaining momentum in e-commerce? How is it different from the research done by the product designer? That is usability testing. I'll talk about that in a bit. Isn't that a job risk? Sorry, what do you mean by that? What is a job risk? That you are failing? Every job has a risk. You're studying in a college. What if you fail there? That is also a risk, no? So you have to prepare for that, and then you have to figure out your plan Bs as well. What is it there that doesn't have risk? And why is it about product management? You take any job has a risk. How to do a research for different geographic zones. I didn't get this. So whatever you're doing for overall, you go to that geographic zone and then you do the research there. You meet those people. For example, you're trying to build a solution specifically for Eastern zone or maybe Bengal. You go there and then you understand the consumer behavior there. So there is no alternate to going to the consumer and talking to them and figuring out and observing what they are doing, or figure out what solves are they using today. When Uber wasn't there, I'm assuming a lot of you are using Uber today. You still had workaround. So you have to study what were they doing then? What are the problems with those solved? That is where a lot of, questions or answers come into your mind. That, okay, this is the problem that is going. This is how they're trying to do a workaround. And therefore, this is the problem that I have to attack because this workaround is not optimal. What is the major difference between product manager and project manager using real life example? Does really an MNC company employees go out and do this research in real time in the market? I've never seen this. Depends how I'm answering this question, then I'll go to the previous question. It depends on how connected do you want to be to the consumer actually. There are a lot of people who let their user research agencies do it. As the company grows, a lot of people rely on user research agencies. But the true product manager, I believe, is someone who keeps on interacting with consumers some way or the other, who are so passionate about the product that they do not leave any opportunity of talking to consumers about that. So that depends on you. Okay, I'll talk about that question. Okay, product manager is whatever I've described. Project manager is someone who takes the responsibility of ensuring that all the teams involved, they stick to the plan of launching the project on time. Once you have agreed, this is the solution I'm going after. Once you have created a plan with your developers, with your design team is telling that, okay, I will give the design by so-and-so date. Developers say, okay, I will build the solution for the MVP by so-and-so date. Marketing teams tell that, okay, I will do the marketing work by so-and-so date. Project manager is someone who helps product manager to stitch all of this together and ensure that he keeps taking or she keeps taking status updates, running those, standards on the ground. Are we on track? Are we not on track? Can we get unblocked? If you're getting blocked, where are you getting blocked? Okay, that team is not doing their work. Then bring them together. Why are you not doing your job? All of those things. Okay. How likely it is that a product may start getting development with survey always, and it's likely by the time to market, the user demand market dynamics are changed. How to deal with that situation? I think that doesn't happen that often, unless your product is something which is taking 3 years. It might so happen in those cases where you started the product now, it will take 3 years to get developed. And by the time the 3 years are over, a lot of it would have changed. I think in that case, especially in enterprise products, it might have that risk. But I think that is why more and more products are now reducing the cycle. They do not take that long because in 3 years, 2 years, 1 year is too big a cycle these days. And then they keep in touch with the consumers. So if they realize that anything is becoming obsolete, they adapt. In those cases, I think the user feedback also keeps on happening on regular basis. So that is how it happens. But generally, for example, in my setup, in a company like Flipkart, we guys are quite agile. We don't have luxury to wait for 6 months. We in fact launch, we fail fast, then we again learn, and then we again launch something better. Okay. I'm working in XYZ startup building a crypto company, have raised funding, but don't know what to build as the earlier ideas won't work. So who should I speak with about the product requirements? You should try to talk about who you're solving for. If you're trying to solve for the consumer, or you're trying to solve for people who want to figure out investment or crypto as an alternate investment, you need to figure out how do people invest? How can crypto help there? That is where the ideas will come. Again, you have to study the consumers quite well. What are their objectives? What are their goals? Why do you think crypto is coming into picture? What is the source of that? You first identify the problem or you identify the objectives or needs of the consumer. What will they do with crypto is a letter question. First of all, before crypto is an investment need. So how do people go about it? And then you figure out how will crypto fit there? And then you figure out what do you need to build in crypto to be able to meet that goal. Okay. I'll move on now because otherwise I think I'll not be able to cover. Anyway, we are using this session to give a gist. I can't answer every question, so I'll try to cover at a very, very broad level. I think a related question because I thought it will help you guys to also understand how does the product development process happen. We talked about ideation, and it could happen once you've identified the problem. You ideate, and you could work with a team. You could involve your engineers. You could involve your designers. You could involve your research team, or you can involve your marketing team. In cases where marketing team is the one who, or sales team is the one, for example, B2B products, business to business products, sales team is the one which understands the clients quite well, quite a lot. So they give the requirements, right? So you have to sit with them. You can ideate with them. Then actually the product development happens, which is basically you design the product, you prototype it, you then do a lot of research around, or you do a lot of usability. I think someone asked that how does the product designer research overlap with this? What happens is so you studied the consumer, you figure out the problem, you built a product you thought will work. When the final product is ready, before you actually launch and start building it, there is a stage in between where you do a rough prototyping. You work with designers or maybe with engineers at times to build a very, very low cost working prototype so that you can take it to your consumers and then do a usability testing. We call it as usability testing, which basically means whatever I have built, is it resonating with the consumers and their needs that I'm trying to solve? Then you get a lot of feedback. You for example, you have built a feature. For example, Uber. The very first time they would have launched, they would have then done a lot of prototyping. They would have, built a mobile app, let's say, a rough mobile app, sort of, you can call it that way. They go to these users and they ask the users, they give them a task that you have to go from product A to product B. Can you please try to book a cab here? Because it's a cab-based solve. The user tries to interact with the product. Now they're getting confused. They do not understand what is happening. They don't understand how to use the map, or they do not know how to start their, source or pickup location. The user, the designer, the user researcher, the product manager, they all are observing this. One person is asking the questions, all others are observing. And then they're taking feedback that, okay, this consumer is not able to understand what I've built or the solution that we have thought of. When this pattern emerges across multiple user sessions, usability sessions, they go back to the drawing board They make some changes. Then they again go to the market with another prototype. Once they're convinced that this looks okay, that is when they go to development. Because see, development is always a cost. You build something, you actually spend developers' resources or bandwidth, and then you find it is not working, and that basically falls flat. So you do a lot of prototyping and research. And again, it depends, because I'm sure someone will have the question that how much does it happen in which company? It happens in different forms. In some companies, they totally skip this because they don't have that much time. So that rather they build the product, then they quickly test with the actual product in the market, that how are people receiving it. In cases where the cost of development is high, it is recommended to do a bit of usability testing before you actually put your developers to work on it. Then your product launch happens, then the product metrics, which I was talking about, you look at what my success objective is or what my success criteria is. For example, for me, the success criteria in case of Uber would be how many people are daily taking the ride and how many of them are repeating, let's say. Then what are the metrics that I need to look at for that bit? So this is how basically a product development process looks like. This is iterative, as I was talking about. How to know what amount of research is sufficient? I think there is no way to know that. It is basically your gut. At times, you know that, okay, I have done enough research. There are patterns which are emerging. And these patterns, for example, a 10 sample size of 8 people are talking about the same problem. You know, this is a problem that, that I have to fix. First, go and fix that problem before you do more research. So you get that understanding. So there are good ways to get that, gut check. But the big part is this is an iterative process. Even the launch that you do, the first launch, as I was talking MVP, V0 or whatever, you do the first launch. Then you again learn, this is the actual launch, the data, the feedback from the user. Then you again go back to the drawing board that, okay, my V0 is launched. I have tested it for 1 month. This is the feedback that I have got. And then you go back and then you again make changes so that, you can then again launch a version 1 and then you again go to the market. This is how the iterative product development works. Okay, I'll move on. How do you get the user feedback? We talked about it in, earlier. One is doing the research to understand the consumer behavior. This feedback is the part which I was talking about. Now you have started the development. How do you get that research? Either you have launched a version, so you do a lot of quantitative data, as I was talking about, or you do surveys. For example, Flipkart is an app that is already live. We do launch surveys in the app for people who come that, okay, did you find what you were looking for? Or were you able to meet the objective or the goal that you were here for? If not, why do you think? Was the selection not available? Was the price high? Was the delivery date too long? What is it that is not working for you? So all of it happens. And then as I was talking about usability testing, that is also a step in between. You take your product before you launch to the audience, you take it as a prototype to the market, to few audience, your TG, to do usability testing. So these are different ways to basically get the feedback. Okay, time check. Now I'll tell you, I'm assuming you got a fair idea of how product management works, how consumer behavior understanding is built, how to get feedback, and why is it so important. On go-to-market strategy, I think, again, as part of your product launch, go-to-market strategy it's a different beast in itself altogether. You basically work with your marketing team, or if it is an app like Flipkart, you work on, you work with the designers or your user research team. If I'm building a new feature, where do I need to place this feature? How do I make it live? To what segment? If there are 100 people who I want to target, how do I do an A/B testing here? Because A/B testing is also important. How do I know whether people are liking it or not, or whether it is actually creating an impact? So do I show it to only 50 out of those and other 50 I do not show? And then I compare the metrics for both of those cohorts to figure out that those who I showed to, did they show a positive movement in the metrics? Whereas the others who did not see it, as compared to them, those who saw, did they see a positive improvement? Did they show a negative trend? In fact, the feature worked negatively. They got more confused. There are different ways of go-to-market strategy. At times, for a very big launch, you do a proper PR. you write a, you work with your content team. You then write a proper one pager or an article in a way. But okay, what is this product all about? Why did you launch it? How did you go about launching it? Then you make a huge, PR about it, and then you launch it. In the, people get to know about it. At times, you do a lot of, advertising around it. So the different ways depending on how big the launch is, where are you launching it, for which TG are you launching it, what is the nature of your product? Is it a mobile app? Is it a, is it a B2B product? So it all depends. There are different ways. Okay. Now, what I'll quickly do is, assuming you guys have a fair understanding of what product management is all about, what product management life cycle is all about, how do you understand the problem statement that you want to work on, how do you understand the consumer behavior, that is where it all starts, with. So this is where, this is what you guys would have understood. Now, I'll give you a few examples of how companies took some real life consumer feedback or real life problems to make some enhancements to the products that they're already launched. And a bit of it you would have already seen. I've tried to take products where you would have used them because they're very commonly used products, and we will see how product managers and how companies use this iterative process to make changes to the products that they have already launched. Okay. So moving on, 1 second. Sorry, it's been stuck. Okay. Okay, how many of you know what is the first logo? Which company is the first logo? This one. Okay, yeah, it's Airbnb, and I'm assuming you all would have used Airbnb. What is the one thing about Airbnb that you guys like a lot? Like, how do you figure out which property to go after? What are some of the things that you look for? Okay, ratings, location. Location, fine, because obviously, I'm assuming you know which location you want to go to. Great images and reviews, pictures, photo. Anyone else? Proximity to major attractions in the city. Okay. Price. Okay. So what happened when Airbnb was launched? It wasn't working, or as we call it, the product market fit wasn't happening. They weren't getting the kind of traction that Airbnb product managers or the founders thought that they will get. What did they do? Obviously, either they involve a market research agency or they themselves go out in the market. What they did as part of their research, they figured out that in order for people to choose a particular property, which is something which they have never seen earlier, and it is something which they are very particular about the way it will look. You are going to, go for a property which you are very, very convinced about. The only way to do that is by creating a very good visual experience around it. So what they figured out was that without very good quality images and maybe multiple images, in fact, a lot of you talk about this part as well, photos bit as well. It turned out that was one of the biggest criteria for people to shortlist or even look at a property. Without that, it was very difficult, even if ratings is good, even if location is all good, till you figure out what the property looks like, you will not be able to get convinced on whether to go with the property or not. So what they did was, for all the properties that they had listed, they figured out a way to get very good quality images. They launched a new version with good quality images. They did an AB or whatever, and then they saw very good traction there. So this is an example of how they launched with whatever they thought the problem is, the solution for that problem. They launched a lot of properties, but still people were not engaging. What they did next, they went to the drawing board. They go to the consumers. Obviously, they had some data because they would have figured out that people are coming all the way till here, but then they're dropping off. This is a real life example of how they used the data and the consumer understanding, the feedback, to build something which, then iteratively they built on it, which then actually helped them gain a lot of traction. And in fact, now you would see Airbnb's images are so, real life like that they speak to you. And now they are, further iterating their 360-degree imaging and all of that. In fact, Instagram is another example of this. Images, the way we are in our setups, they try to make everyone a celebrity out of that with all the filters and everything. So they understood that this is the kind of TG, which is the TG that they're going after. They're going after the TG, which is Gen Z, which is you guys. So how to basically capture their attention? This is what they engage in. This is how they understand. They built on that consumer behavior. Second logo, guys. What is it? This logo. Second is this YouTube. Okay. Fair. Now, if all of you have the YouTube app, launch the app, try to refresh, pull down the page. This is the signal. We all use that to refresh our Instagram reels, our our YouTube feed. There is a new feature or something else will pop up on your screen. Can you do that? And can you tell me what are you seeing on the screen? If you guys have mobile, I'm assuming you all have access to mobile as of now. Let's do that. Launch your YouTube app, browse a bit, then scroll down. Yes, I think someone nailed it. There is a filter which comes as new to you. Can you tell me what would have gone? Very, very small feature, but a very, very impactful feature. Can someone tell me, all those who would have discovered new to you, why do you think it is an important feature? And why do you think YouTube would have launched it? Okay. So see, what would have happened is, obviously, in order to increase the engagement on YouTube, people from YouTube, the product manager working on this problem statement, the YouTube feed, would have also talked to a lot of consumers and would have figured out that people try to do a lot of refresh. The reason for doing a lot of refresh, and we all do it. We do it on Instagram, wherever there's a lot of feed. We call this feed, Facebook, etc. We do that. The reason is to see something new. You want this entire feed to refresh, and you forcibly do that when you're trying to, pull the page down. That is a behavior which someone would have understood by talking to these users, that how you're engaging with this, what is their expectation. And they introduce an explicit filter called new to you, where you can directly tap and ask YouTube to give something to you that you have not engaged in already. Because a feed can be of multiple types. Feed can be okay, show me Bollywood songs because Shubham loves Bollywood. And hence, that my taste is in Bollywood. Keep showing me more and more Bollywood. Maybe every time I refresh, keep showing me more and more Bollywood. It could be one nature, where you're trying to exploit. Another case could be, I am done with what you have been showing me. I want to explore new stuff. That is where this new to you filter has been introduced, because that's a very, very strong use case. Again, something which they would have figured out by talking to consumers. Another example, like clear example, a very, very small feature, but very, very impactful feature. Uber. You would have realized those days when you were trying to book a cab and you would never get a cab. In the peak hours. Not that you get a lot of Uber now. That is also a problem. But yeah, there was a time when it was very difficult. And you were in your mind, okay, I really have to reach there. I'm ready to pay maybe twice the money. But I really need the cab because I have to, maybe I have an exam. I don't have a vehicle. I have no one to drop me. So I'm ready to pay, maybe instead of 250, I'll pay 500, but please take me there. Uber would have understood this, that there are people who are able to pay more or who want to pay more. And they can do that, but I'm not able to meet their demand. What did they launch for this? Can, any comments around this? I'm sure you would all have used that. They launched something. Priority book anything else? Schedule cab, Uber pool feature. They launched search pricing, if you guys remember. That okay, during this time, this is the peak time, the charges will be 2x, 1.8x, 2.5x. Why? Because there's a lot of demand. Classic demand supply mismatch problem. You all would have used that. And at times you would have even paid for it. A lot of times you would be like, are they crazy? I'm not going to pay 2.8x. I would rather wait. It's okay, you wait. On the other hand, there will be people who are ready to pay that because they really need to go there. This was a feature for those guys because there is only so much supply. There are only so many drivers. How do I create an opportunity as a company for these drivers? Anyway, not everyone is going to get the cab. So I rather fulfill the need for those guys who are able to pay a premium, and drivers will also be able to, extract out maximum out of it. So again, example of they understood the problem, they understood the demand supply problem. They understood that there is a cohort of consumers who are okay to pay the premium. So let me charge that premium. Why to leave money on the table? Okay, that is another example. Snapchat. I think you all would have used the stories example. Snapchat stories. Again, a very, that is where it started. Then Facebook got it. Then Instagram got it. They copied it. The entire WhatsApp status thing is also copied from that. Snapchat, again, this is a very classic example of understanding that Gen Z, who uses Snapchat the most, they want to share moments of their life then and there, and they don't want it to last forever because tomorrow they will create new memories, and they again want to broadcast that to their circle, and that is where stories was born. Try to read about how stories was born. Try to understand how did they go about doing the consumer understanding about this, a typical consumer behavior bit. So that is how it all happened. Netflix, again, a very solid example of how they try to iterate. How do they go to the regional markets? They try to create regional content. Snapchat has a feature of disappearing message. Again, a very important feature that they build. They your chat they get deleted after a point in time because the consumers who are doing that chat, they do not want it to last forever because of whatever reason. I see, to be very candid, Gen Z, maybe they are using Snapchat to talk to someone who they do not know whether that person will remain in their friend list tomorrow or not. So they do not want anything to persist. So that is something which they built. The database angle of it came later. That would have been an after effect of it, but that was not because of which the feature was built. It just so happened that obviously because you don't have to preserve, so you can you are using less memory, but that was not the reason to build that. The reason was that the consumers needed it. Look at Netflix. It goes to every geography. It tries to create a lot of regional content there because that is what the consumers need. Google Maps. What is it? One example in Google Maps which you guys feel. Again, it's an iteration. I don't know how many of you used Google Maps earlier. Over time, what were the features that Google Maps launched which we can't live without today? It is one example. Yeah. Other examples? You guys don't use Google Maps. Guys, come on. Real-time traffic. Awesome. So direction, so I think when Google Maps launched, it had direction, right? It was able to tell you that, okay, if you go from A to B, this is the route that you take. Now, a lot of these improvements happen over time. People needed to know that, okay, fine, I'll go from A to B. What is the right time to go from A to B? Should I start now? Like, what is the traffic condition? I want to know that how much time will it take because the traffic is so bad. Which patch the traffic is bad? On the way to that particular place, can you give me a detour because the traffic is very congested here? What is the ETA? So you look at how each of these features is adding so much value to each one of our lives. We use them on a day-to-day basis. There's a product manager, there's a designer, there's a developer, there is a market research guy sitting behind all of this, thinking about these consumers day in, day out, talking to them, figuring out, and see, no consumer would have come and told directly that, okay, you give me a traffic update. They would have built some hypothesis. But okay, consumers are saying that direction is fine, but then I get stuck in traffic at times. I do not know how much time will it take me to reach there. This would have given enough hints to product managers from Google to come up with some hypothesis that, okay, what if we build a feature which can give a real-time traffic update or an ETA when a consumer starts? Let's try this out. Let's build that. Maybe it will solve the problem that people have. And they did that. They might have tried some other experiments also that would not have worked. And then they would have shut them down. So, those kind of things, that is where, how this iterative process works. McDonald's, what do you think they would have done over time to understand the consumer behavior and then change the product? It's a classic case study. Only two people have gone to McDonald's from here, is it? Okay, so when McDonald's launched in India, yeah, I think you guys answered it. When they launched in India, they had the classic menu. Whatever they took from the Western world, they launched with that. Obviously, every region has a very, very particular palate. Indians are known for their spices, consumption. They are known for the kind of, no one eats paneer in the West. I think they're all cheese. We guys are paneer oriented. We have particular type of chicken. So McDonald's launched. They understood it wasn't working. They figured out what is it that is not working by talking to users, by employing an agency or whatever. They figured out that McDonald's is trying to sell something which people consume, and consumption is very, very local. Food consumption is very, very local in nature. McDonald's introduced this entire Mac Aloo Tikki burger that you guys eat, or the chicken burger. These are all Indian editions. They're not there in the Western menu. So these are the additions that they would have done after these guys that came to the country. They figured out what is it that people need, what is it that consumers need. Everything is based on consumer. Why are they not coming to my product, or why are they not latching onto my product? There is something which is going wrong. This is how the entire iterative process happens. And then over time, they started with Mac Aloo Tikki, they started with this chicken burger, then someone wrote peri peri mix, they added that. And then they, started adding more and more things to this menu. And that is how they became more Indian in nature. So I think with this, I'll end the presentation, guys. This is to give you a flavor of what a product manager does, how each of these examples, because the presentation was more aligned towards real life examples so that you guys can understand and relate with these. Each one of these you would have used pretty much, or maybe at least 4 out of these ones. Any insurance product example, I don't recall, you can Google it. I am not an expert on insurance side, but I'm sure there would be examples. There would be examples where they know that, for example, okay, maybe I can give an example. Most of us, for health insurance, most of us, have aging parents. At least in my age now, my parents are in the old age bracket. And a lot of insurance companies, they put this particular, clause that we will not be able to enroll for health insurance people beyond a particular age. There is a company which tied up with IIM Bangalore, and they understood that a lot of my batchmates and my seniors, all of them can pay a good premium, maybe a bit more premium for their parents, because all of us would have our parents in that age bracket, but we would not want this clause of maybe, less than 60 years of age to enroll. They launched a customized product with a bit more premium, but they tried to fill that gap which the market doesn't offer today, which is that for higher age brackets also, people can enroll for health insurance. And they basically gave that product, and most of us latched onto it because that offering wasn't there in the market. This is an example of they understood the market need. They understood this particular area is where there is no product. So there are people who can pay a bit more, but they want to get their parents covered in it. And that is where they go, they went ahead with their product. And there could be other examples also. Yeah, you guys can discuss on chat over that. Please let me know if a non-technical background can, yes, a non-technical background can make it to a PM. There is no hard constraint, but it depends on the company though. There are companies which are okay about hiring non-technical product managers, because to be very frank, as a product manager, you really do not know a lot of coding or any technical stuff. A non-technical person suits very well for product management. It's all about understanding the market. It's all about understanding the consumer behavior. So that is where you can fit well, but it also depends on the company. There are companies which are very, very hell-bent on getting people from technical background only into product management. But as far as my experience goes, I don't think so that a non-technical person can't make it into PM. Okay, any product example from AI or robotics background? Now you guys can Google that. I don't have examples from every field that I would know. I am sorry. You please use ChatGPT. You can figure that out, or use Google. Won't have those examples maybe. Any other questions, guys? Maybe for next 2-3 minutes, I can take questions, and then we can end the deck there. We can end the presentation. No more questions, it seems then. Doing courses is really fed job. I did CSPO 2 months ago and be trying, not shortlisted for any. I think the fetching the job depends on the only way for the interviewer to gauge your skills is the questions that the interviewer asks. So rather than, I do not know what kind of, to be very frank, I don't know what these courses are. I haven't come across these courses. Maybe I never had to do those because I joined product management career quite long back. But I think it all boils down to how well prepared you are for the question. So you need to understand whichever company you're applying, or if the domain that you're applying for is product management, what are the kind of questions that are asked? Can you prepare for those questions? How to prepare for those questions? And there's enough material available on internet, on YouTube, etc. What are the questions asked? Maybe there can be a session someday where few of those questions can be taken, but I'm just telling that it's all about preparing because that is the only way for the interviewer to judge you. That these are the typical skills needed in product management on a day-to-day basis. There'll be questions to judge those skills. How well are you able to answer those questions? If the courses that you're doing are somewhere helping you to prepare better for day-to-day life of a product manager, then sure, those courses will help you to land a job. But I don't think so that doing courses will, just land you a job, unless the courses are very, very specific to product management, where they help you do case studies. They help you understand what a product manager goes through to understand each of those aspects of product management, which I talked about. Understanding the market, understanding the opportunity. That is when I think you can understand that better and you can build those skill sets. So I don't know what these courses that you have mentioned, CSPO 2, etc. If they are of those kinds, sure, they might help. And obviously, not shortlisted for any. So I think good luck for that. Anyway, it doesn't mean that you start your job hunting journey and you will get the very first job converted. It does take time at times, and that's okay. You learn from every job interview, and then you try to get better in the next one. So that is a journey that you have to go through. Not sure I have 6 years experience. Maybe their expectation are high to deal with it. CSPU certified Scrum product. See, Scrum product owner, I think that is more around Scrum management. It's a different, field altogether. I think it's more to do with project managers who manage Scrums. So that is a bit different. Product management is a bit different way, if I'm getting it right. How do we know we have achieved the product market fit? Your metrics will tell you that. That's why we have product metrics. You have success metrics. You decided, okay, the objective of the product was this. These are the metrics that I'll measure, and your metrics are going quite well. That means you have got the product market fit. 1 second. Thank you for the presentation. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. You're welcome. How do we know achieve? I'm not sure I have 60. How do we know? I'm feeling like without prior experience in product management and experience of 5+, they're not taking them how to. See, I think one of the ways to overcome this is to do an internship in product management. Even if it's without any stipend, it helps. You get to know on the job what it is to be a product manager. It prepares you for the job. And then maybe, you guys can then apply. Obviously, if you have a 5 years experience in a non-product management field, and now you're applying for product management, interviewers will have that question in mind that why do I take this person? I would rather take someone who is fresh from college, who I can mold, or who has a product management experience. So now you have to prove your worth. For that, either you say that, okay, I'm ready to start from ground zero again as a product manager. And maybe I've done few internships which tells, it all depends on the type of company also at times. It is okay to choose a company which might not be that big or that known for product management, maybe a startup, but they let you explore product management. And then from there, you basically learn the job. or the skill set, and then over time you move over. You maybe talk to the last question. You can talk to someone internally. You see if they have the policy of moving people. But given the fact that you have 8 years of experience, you won't be expected, or you can't be given a job of a product manager who has an 8 years of experience. You will have to take a great cut there. How open are you for that? Is your company allowing that? Will you start from ground zero, or will you start from ground 4? Maybe you're at ground 8 today. So those are the questions that you will have to answer. So again, different companies have different policies. Some of the customers example, which is okay. You will always have those customers. You try to figure out if you can solve for those 10% customers also. Or maybe you know that only 10% is a very, very big number, by the way. If 10% customers are unhappy, you would try to solve for them. If it is 1%, there's a problem that 1% is facing, there's a problem that 10% is facing. You will prioritize the 10% problem first in your roadmap. That is what the entire art of road mapping is. Okay, 10% of the customers are facing this problem. Let me first fix that. Then I'll go to a problem which is 1%. Having 10+ years experience and already working on the same line, would a certificate help on internship? Will I think internship any day. I don't know how much value the certificates have. I mean, it could be a different answer from someone else. It could be a different answer for a different kind of certificate. I think internship would be better because it will give you a real-time exposure. Or it also depends on when you get the certificate. Again, what kind of certificate is it? Is it a college giving you a certificate after you are made to go through a particular type of course on product management, which is known to proof of your product management skills? Maybe that certificate adds a lot of value. For example, if you do an MBA from a premium college, you know that MBA will be accepted and acknowledged very well in the industry. If you do an MBA from ABC college, which no one knows, I don't know how much value it will hold. So that is the same difference for certificate as well. But I think internships will be preferred, will add more value because they give you more real-time, experience. Just 5-6 years plus can get chance for internship when candidates are ready. If yes, you can say ways to search those companies. No, I don't think so. I have a way or a rule book for this. You can try in startups, but it depends on how much of this 5-6 years of experience that you have, how much value add will it do to the product management experience? Because the thing from the interviewer's point of view as well, you will apply for the role. They will look at your resume. They will see that you're applying for a role where you don't have anything on your resume which matches with that role. So why will they pick your resume versus someone who has a relevant role? So in this case, I think, but again, as we say, that trying doesn't help. Maybe on LinkedIn, you can try to reach out to people. You can try to do a cold call or maybe cold email, whatever we call it. You can drop in messages. You can try to reach out to some smaller companies who are okay. They look more for a cultural fit than the job fit, because they feel that if the cultural fit is right, the employee will be able to, work on the job as well. So that is, I think, there is no single answer for this. It depends on a bit of luck. It depends on your perseverance. How much can you push for it? How much can you try? To what length can you try? Given you know that you don't have a product management experience, you're trying to switch fields. So it all depends on that. But yeah, nothing is impossible. There are cases where people have moved from non-product management profiles to, product management profiles. Do these certifications help? I have very limited knowledge about certifications, guys. I think you need to check with someone who either has got a certification and then has seen a change in progression, or someone has an idea. I don't have much idea about certificates. I'm sorry on that. Does this IIM course help me overcome this? If yes, which IIM course? I think that is a good segue into the next slide, where I think we can talk about how this course helps and how will it add value. Maybe that will be a good segue into this now. Girish, can you hear me?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So I believe a lot of people had a lot of doubts in terms of how this course can help them have a career transition. So guys, like, anyone has any queries regarding to that? So we have a best team here who can help you with that regard. So they'll first try to understand what exactly is that you're looking for in terms of a career transition, like what exactly is their expectation, and then they'll be able to provide you the solution. Okay, so The program that we offer here is actually from IIM Indo. So as you know, like now you can see in the slide. As Shubham addressed, first of all, thank you, Shubham. Like you were able to give out information, like you were able to relate to the real life problems, which actually many product managers are dealing currently, right? I think many of our learners or like who are actually the participants here could relate to that. That's what like even this program has to offer. If you just talk about in just say 2 or 3 words, or let's say 2 or 3 sentences, this is a 6 months program that we're offering from IIM Indo, which has got real life examples that we can discuss about. So the feature that we offer here is called as BYOP, whereas in the learners get a luxury to bring in their own product idea, and then they actually can work upon it. And we have mentors who will be guiding them on how to work upon it and how to change wherever they need assistance. And as you spoke in the beginning in terms of the product life cycle, we also have a 5i framework where the product managers or like someone who wants to become a product manager can actually work upon each and every phase of the product life cycle. Okay, so guys, please reach out to our team. Okay, so you can just drop in an inquiry. Our team would be there to help you out in terms of the queries that you have. So I think there's
one.
one.
Sharing now, right, Girish?
Yeah. So I think so we're done with the questions. Like, so if there is any other questions, like guys, like just put on the. Well, Prahalad asked a question like, what is the course fees? Prahalad, I would recommend that like you speak to one of our academic expert and then get a better solution on that part. So if you at all you have any other questions in terms of the program that we offer, guys, please put in your comments or questions on the chat box, and we will reach out to you. Banu Pratap is asking, can we know more about BYOP? Yes. What is BYOP? It's basically bring your own product. So when you want to solve a real life problem, so you can't just go with some generic study or an understanding. So if you know there's something that you want to address, so we are giving you that luxury where you can actually choose a product idea, and the overall course curriculum is going to be revolving around that. So I think, again, to answer your question, like in detail, our academic counselors would be the best people to talk to. Do you conduct mock PM interviews as a part of this course? Yes, once you complete the program, so there's going to be a panel of experts who would be assisting you in terms of your LinkedIn profile, in terms of your resume writing, and in terms of your mock interviews. Yes, we do offer that facility. Certificate will be from IIM. Yes, so you would be getting a certification from IIM. Banu Pratap is asking, do you provide placement assistance? Yes, we do provide placement assistance. So in terms of career enhancement, so once you complete the program. As again, I think guys, like in terms of placements or in terms of the program, please drop in your queries here. So we have a team will reach out to you tomorrow. Jitendra Shah is asking, can you please share the course curriculum in details? Yes, we will send out an email so that you can have a look into it. Yes, Shraddha is asking a question. I'm in a full-time job, but I can spend my weekends for this. Does this include classes over weekdays? This program is basically like a weekend batch. So it's completely 100% live sessions that are conducted by experts from IIM Indo full-time faculty as well as industry experts that we have here. So you would be having your classes on the weekends, not on the weekdays. So any other questions? Yeah, again, there's one more question. Any classroom session or campus visited? This program is meant for working professionals, considering the pain point like working professionals will not be able to travel. So we've actually made it completely 100% live. And one good part about this program is it's completely live interactive classes. So you can actually be participative as how you were in this particular webinar. You can reach out to the mentors, like you can reach out to the faculty there. They'll be able to solve your questions then and there. Thank you, Shubham. Thank you, everyone. Like once again, like please, guys, like if you have any doubts, like you can just drop in your comments on the chat box. So we'll have a team get back to you about all your doubts.